Okay, thanks for coming, everybody. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks for coming. We'll start with item number 1, approve the agenda. Any additions, deletions, or corrections? I have 1, removal. We're going to remove item E3, the resolution for the revocation of the conditional use permit for Jason Wilkers. That's being removed from the agenda tonight. Anything else, Teresa?
No.
Yeah?
No.
Good. Good. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I'll make the motion.
Thanks, Dan. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Doug. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries unanimously, Linda. On to the consent agenda. Everything's in the packet. The claims were added on Monday, as we were told last Friday, because Jan was on vacation, so she got those in there, so everybody should have got that update. Any questions or comments on the consent agenda?
They didn't get out to the public, though, did they?
They're in the public packet. Yeah, they were. I redid the public on the website.
Yeah.
Yeah, on 9/10, I got them the
That
claims.
is all.
Yep.
I'd been asked. Okay.
Yep, they got put in on the 10th. Anything else? Okay, entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Make that motion.
Thanks,
Second.
Doug. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. No visitors to the council tonight. We do have 2 people for public forum. I'll call you if you come to the podium, state your name and address, and then share with us your comments, and then we'll listen to that, and then we'll have somebody get back to you with an answer if it's something that needs to be answered. So Jerry Berg?
Okay, Jerry Berg, 506 Fifth Avenue Northwest. Having to do with the reconstruction of the streets up our way. About a year ago, I was made aware of the drainage storm sewer across Fifth Avenue it's about 6th Street. There's no street there, but about halfway up the block. And I became aware that it was quite shallow. And I've been concerned ever since. I've been mentioning to Brandon and Tyler, and they've been trying to make me feel comfortable that it'll continue to drain. However, my sump drains year-round, not so much in the winter, but year-round. And the storm sewer is, I don't know, 3 feet deep perhaps. And if you run the proposed sump drain line down the side of the street, you would have to be higher than that to drain into that sewer pipe, which brings it up pretty much about in the middle of a freeze zone. I have a problem with that, I guess. If my sump runs year-round and it starts freezing a little bit, pretty soon it could potentially freeze off. If it freezes off, then it starts backing up. And I got quite a ways up to my place, but I just became aware of this weekend. I was talking to some neighbors, and I was surprised at how much some of the neighbors' sumps run in the wintertime also. I thought mine was the main one, but there's several others that run quite a bit. It could probably handle it in a normal winter or normal spring, but if it did freeze up, middle of the winter or late in the winter, frost tends to ground in the springtime. And if we get a particularly wet springtime and it's frozen up, it's not going to be good for a lot of neighbors and my place. I've been draining outside for 35 years almost now, and I don't want it plugged up now after we spend millions of dollars to supposedly fix all our systems. Let's see, so I covered all the potential problems. A couple possible solutions, which aren't cheap, but a couple that I thought of is, one is putting a sump drain, adjacent to the storm there, low enough so the sump lines would run into it, so it'd have to be down twice as far as the storm there, but then lift it up to the storm. The storm's big enough that it would run. Another way would be possibly leave that sump basin in there, but you could run a force line up to one of the storm sewers at 5th to 5th or up to the north. I don't know if there's one in the north or not, but it's a possibility. And another one, of course, is, just run a large tile line like they do in the, farm fields down through, we have to get an easement through the, church property to the west, run it down to 8th Avenue. But other than that, I don't know how you're gonna guarantee that, that does not freeze up and consequently flood my basement
Okay.
and neighbors' basements.
Brandon, aren't all sub lines about 3.5 feet deep behind the curb?
We run them about 4 feet from behind the back of the
Okay.
curb, so
Right.
behind, from like the gutter line, it'd be
Yep.
about 3.5 feet deep.
Yep.
And the storm sewer that we are discharging, Jerry's portion of his sub-drain, it is pretty shallow there, it's about 2.5, 3 feet deep, I just pulled it up. So it's not necessarily ideal, the problem is our construction project didn't go downstream to lower that storm sewer, so, it's in that zone that it has the potential to freeze, that we think it'll be fine, and, maybe the recommendation would be is let's see how it works, and if we need to lower that storm sewer, the only option that's not part of our project is to lower the storm sewer from that low point through the church. We'd have to again get that easement there, but that could potentially work. We could look at insulating it too, when you have an open catch basin that likes to freeze around the catch basin, so it's not necessarily that much higher in elevation, that much shallower than the other storm sewers that we have, but it is slightly shallower in that area. Jerry, I'll ask the question, has that storm sewer physically froze up in the past? No, that,
I have no idea.
the catch basins, okay. Because that'd be a concern too, if in the past it is frozen up from, snow melt and runoff, and if that's melted, or excuse me, frozen before, then if that, was the case, and that would cause a little bit more concern, but I haven't heard that.
So I guess my question is, the proposed sub-drain, so it's gonna be less than the 3.5 feet in that area?
In that area, so we're gonna carry the 4 foot until we get those catch basins, we have to flatten
Right.
out to get into those catch
Yep.
basins to get it to drain. So all the other catch basins, we had the ability to lower the storm sewer.
Yep.
To provide that cover, protect from freezing from the sub-drain. We did provide that, but this one section of the project, there was some shallow storm sewer. We're not replacing going downstream, so we're kind of
Sure.
stuck with
Yep.
that elevation. And then Jerry mentioned the only way to really fix that would be going back, lowering from the church area where it ultimately drains to, and lowering that and flattening that grade out. We just didn't include it in part of the project, and not sure that much of an expense would be the right thing to do at this time.
Well, the comment about wait and see how it works is not acceptable. I don't wanna swim in my basement just because of waiting and seeing. I think it's a pretty straight up potential freeze, so. And we, been assessed, stormwater assessments for years, and, back when they put one in on, 4th Avenue, they had that trial thing they did, about, I don't know, 8 years ago or something, where Elaine Coulter's on down to the north. That was a trial, as you know, that was gonna work out, and at that time I asked, Randy Lent, I said, well, I've got this much or more running down my street, and he said, well, this is a trial thing, see how it goes, and those streets are gonna be fixed, in the near future. Well, the near future was a little bit longer, but whatever it was, his answer was it was going to be fixed. I assumed it was going to be fixed. And to me, the drain line dips are not a fix in my estimation. And I don't wanna flood my basement on a try and wait and see kind of situation. Okay, thank you.
All right. Thanks, Jay, appreciate it.
Julie, is it Nagurski?
Good evening, council members. I'm Julie Nagorski here on behalf of Jason Wilker. It's our understanding, based on what was said just at the beginning of the meeting, that his CUP is off the agenda. I'm just here to confirm that, and we do appreciate that planning and zoning did not recommend revocation of the CUP, and we will be working with the city moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, on to committee reports. The first one there is resolution for the preliminary plat for Casey's General Store. Everybody has that in front of them. And this comes as a recommendation from the planning and zoning passed on Monday night recommending approval of the preliminary plat. So are there any questions for the administrator or from anybody on the planning board?
I just have one.
Mhm.
Under the documents, it says access easement for parcel
Mhm.
24. Which parcel is that, which?
So that would be the parcel that's currently the Struthers home. So, we could potentially run into the same issue that we've got with the lots in front of Shop House, and that there would be no access easement, to that parcel from the curb cut that will be put in by Casey. So instead of having parcels that would require another curb cut, we're requesting that they provide, that they record an access easement
Okay.
for that parcel, so that if it should be developed in the future, we're not up against the same challenge.
That was the only question I
Got
had.
it?
I guess just listening to planning the other night, I had a little question there. You said in order to change Casey's property to work with the 7 lots there, and then the Struthers property, that you had to replot them both?
No, that they would be in separate plats.
They're on separate plats? Okay.
When this final plat is approved, they will be in separate plats.
How does that relate to the separate plats that the 2 in front of Shopko are at that you can't join together now?
Right,
Because
exactly.
the next subject there, that was said that now.
It's exactly the same. It will be the same situation.
I thought we wanted to eliminate that type of situation. I just wondered why we went to it again on this then. You know, you said that on the next thing up, that's what was said.
Mhm.
We don't wanna do this anymore, and then we came up with the other lots, and that's the way they were. And you said you don't wanna do it anymore, but we just did it on the block before. That was just said, I'm just asking a question.
Right, I wanted the planning commission to understand that in the future, we'll wanna think differently about how we plat portions of a block. So it's like when we get into the same block and we're platting only a portion of that block, how we're creating separate plats.
I heard the same thing you did.
Yeah,
I guess I just differentiated the two because the 2 lots in front of Shopko, everything was gone. Where this one, there's still someone there,
Mhm.
so that's why I just looked at it as the same but different. Different because Struthers are still gonna be there, so it's a separate plat. Where on the other one, everything was gone, and they still left it a separate plat when they could have joined it at that time, but didn't.
Mhm.
Yeah, I knew there was troubles because they were
Yeah.
separate
Right.
ones, it was harder to
Right.
join together, and I thought, this
Right.
property, you know, now they're separate, it's gonna be just as hard if Casey's wanted to do something with that, you know. I just asked the question because I didn't quite get why.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, any other questions?
Nope.
Okay, we have a recommendation from planning and zoning, so I'll call for a motion to approve the resolution approving the preliminary plat of Casey's General Store Edition.
I'll make that motion.
Signed, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Resolution passes unanimously, Linda. Next item, E2, resolution for final plat Casey's General Store.
It's essentially a replica.
It's the same thing we just
Yeah,
did. Yep.
exactly.
Same but different. Same but different.
Right,
Yep.
the final.
Final.
Okay, so any questions on the final? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the final plat of the Casey's General Store Edition.
I'll make that motion.
Dan, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously, Linda. Number 4, Hoisington Kogler revised proposal.
So I did go back to Brad Scheibet, Hoisington Kogler Group, and asked him to come back with a proposal that would have the staff and planning commission doing some of the work that was initially proposed for Hoisington Kogler Group to do, and this is the revised proposal.
So the revised proposal is to not exceed $8,000.
Right.
Okay, so we would be, and that would be getting their assistance with helping, but the planning commission will be doing the majority of the work.
Well, staff and planning commission
Right.
will, will
And they
make
would-
all their notes about what's not working.
And they would make it legal for us. Put it in the legal
Exactly.
terms and make sure
They will
we're.
help us, yes.
Okay. And it's broken up into several different tasks, 1 through 4. We're just, if we accepted this, we could just do task 1, up to the $8,000.
Mhm.
We aren't committed to tasks 2
No.
through 4.
No, you can, approve task 1.
I know I spoke at the last meeting on, that I wasn't in favor of the whole proposal that we had the first time. I thought the cost was just a little bit too much on top of what we've already done, and that, planning and zoning and staff could take a swing at doing the majority of the work. Sits better with me, to make sure that whatever work we're doing then is recorded properly in the proper language, and I think that's a better number for us to absorb in the budget that we have here. So, that's my 2 cents, since I had kind of negative comments last time about.
So where's the 8,000 coming from?
It's currently budgeted.
It's currently in the budget.
That we have to use it for something else somewhere.
It's in the planning and zoning budget.
Planning and zoning budget. We had basically retained the amount that had been paid for wages,
Well, I know,
in the
I
event
keep
that
hearing-
there would be
keep
professional
hearing that same thing.
services.
You know, it's coming out of planning, it's coming out of planning, we retain that, you know, wages and saved. I keep using that same phrase over and over again, it's like, we still have that.
Yeah, yeah, if you look at the, year-to-date financials. It's there.
Any other questions or discussion?
I think it's a good idea to have them as a backup.
Dan, anything?
On the 8,000 hourly, how are they going to bill it out? Are they an hourly wage or dropping a check for $8,000 and see what we get, or?
To not to exceed.
Yeah,
So
so
whatever,
they'll bill us for the work that's done.
so whatever planning and zoning gets done, sends to them for their final check with their recommendation as far as making it legal, once we get to 8,000, we're done. And if we go under 8,000, that's
Right,
fine too.
but wonder, I mean, it'd be nice to know what their actual charges are, an hourly rate, and not normally do we ask, I mean, we even hold Brandon to the fire on his not to exceed, you know, getting some
Mhm.
sort of an idea of what his
Yep.
billable rate.
Yep. We'll have to work with them not to exceed it.
I'm not asking that, I'm asking us to find out what the billable.
Find out what the hourly rate is.
Hourly rate we're doing here.
Okay.
Do you know that offhand, Brandon?
What the rate is?
What their rate was? No? Okay.
I don't. My assumption, if it says 8,000 not to exceed.
Doesn't give any indication.
It's just fee not to exceed.
Yeah. And plus, they have several different layers of staff, and Brad's actually trying to keep himself out of the mix as much as possible. So it can be varying rates depending on which staff person is assigned to which task.
Well, we'll find out the hourly rate, but I'm gonna make the recommendation that we go ahead with the 8,000 so the planning and zoning can get started on this. I think a lot of the issues that we run into here lately have been because of ordinance issues, not necessarily being up to date or recorded correctly, or there was some things not written correctly that we missed the last time, or just things that changed in the city.
Right.
Circumstances changed, so I think we need to get on these changes, so planning and zoning can get on their agenda to start with section 1, or whichever section seems to give us the biggest issues. And so I'd encourage planning and zoning to prioritize which sections you want to start with. I would kind of go through where have our big issues been in the last 6 months to a year that we're wasting our time on or wasting money on.
Well, it's
Start
not
with that
we're-
section.
Not really starting that we're wasting anything, it's just that over the years, the way things have changed, like we were talking about, some other things that you and I were talking about, it's just muddy.
and we don't come until we're dealing with it, unless somebody's actually in their ordinance book all the time, you know, they come across it, so it's, unless you're going to just sit down and read it.
Well, and
You
so
know,
many
go
things
ahead.
are doubled up.
Right.
In different sections.
Right, and I think Linda and Teresa kind of worked on some of that before. But yeah, it's just basically starting from the beginning and trying to catch as we go, so.
Okay, all right, so I'll make the motion that we go with the, step one, part one, not to exceed $8,000 with planning and zoning and staff, getting a start on that, and having them as our backup. So I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion? All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 4-1 with Councilman Borgstrom. Number 5, EDA update. This is part of, at the last meeting, I have it pulled up here. Kind of gets into our budget discussion. We had a transfer from electric funds to the EDA of $20,000. I believe it was from electric, correct?
That's for 2019.
Yeah, for 2019 budget, next year's budget, for special programs or incentive programs that the EDA was possibly going to offer. So we said we'd come back with, EDA met last Tuesday, and what they came up with, or what we're going to recommend, probably it'll be the first October council meeting, because EDA doesn't meet until the first week of October, is that $20,000 would go into a designated program for a business facade improvement program, which would allow businesses in the city limits of Casson to apply for a matching grant of up to $2,000 per building. It's a dollar per dollar grant. There's some other language that'll be proposed there that they can't use their matching dollars, they can't get EDA loans to use as their matching funds, it has to be their own money. And this is just a first start, see how this program goes. Eligible projects would potentially be painting of building exterior, rehab and replacement of exterior windows visible from the public areas, rehab and replacement of exterior doors, siding, installation of brick on the building facade, brick tuck pointing, awnings, canopy, signage, ancillary decorative lighting, surface parking lots that improve the property's curb appeal, screening of unsightly features such as utility connections, dumpsters, other permanent fixed above-ground decorative features, etc. Projects that are proposed to not be included would be any interior work to the building, new construction or building additions, acquisition, improvements not visible from the public, movable, non-permanent landscaping features, improvements already completed or in progress at the time of application. Each person will go through an application process that will be evaluated by the Finance Committee and the EDA to make sure it meets all the criteria. The idea here is that, as we've been talking to people around, is that we want to have an inviting business community. And if building owners are willing to put a little bit of their money into it, they can apply and get a little bit of city assistance. If we can make the business community look better, for those that would like to participate in that, it's good for business. Hopefully would attract new business to town, it would attract people to stay and spend their dollars in Casson if it was more attractive. But again, it's up to the property owner, if they want to participate or not. It'll be something that'll be available to them. So as an EDA, every now and then we get, what can you do to help us? We've got our revolving loan fund. I'd like to add this to our list of things, and then as the years go by, we hopefully can add things to it. And the nice thing is, if we dedicate this $20,000 pot of money for this facade improvement program, and nobody applies for it, then the people didn't value that, we can figure out a different program and go from there. So we can see what people have as priorities and go forward. So I think it's a good way for us to incentivize people to take care of their properties, and it might just help that person who maybe couldn't afford the whole project, but boy, if they got a little bit of assistance, they could, and the whole community benefits from it. So does that answer the question from the budget last time, about the $20,000?
That's a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty sure that answers your question. So that's that update there. Any questions on that? There's nothing's final on that. It has to, Stephanie, our new CETA consultant, put all that together. We'll take that up as an EDA at the first meeting in October, and then bring it back for a recommendation for approval from the council at the first meeting in October. Start that as of the first of the year, 2019. So that $20,000, when we get to the budget here, the next, that $20,000 addition to the expense for EDA is a transfer in from the electric funds, and then dedicated funds in EDA, so it does not affect the levy. Okay, any questions?
I just got one, just, for the EDA that you on, what about a business owner that's not on Main Street and feels a little left out?
In the
whole
city
town.
limits.
City limits.
Any business in the city limits of Castle.
Okay.
Yep, yeah, because
I
that's,
understand.
some towns, and basically, full disclosure, we stole these ideas from other communities. You know, Stewartville has some pretty good incentive programs, and there's a few other communities, and Stephanie put them together to kind of meet our needs. And I know Dan's EDA, Janet's your EDA, our big concern was, we don't, you know, a lot of them call it a downtown improvement. We didn't want to just single out downtown, because if you do business in Casson, we value you doing business in Casson. If you want to make your storefront look better, then we want to help you, no matter if you're on Main Street or not. So, good question, though. It's not just downtown, it's anywhere in the city limits of Casson. Okay, on to F, old business. Cue the music and cars. It's just more of a update. They're gonna wait and possibly do something next year. They just couldn't quite get it all pulled together this year for September, so, which was gonna be this Saturday, so. On to old business number 2, preliminary budget. So at the last meeting, we had a preliminary budget that came in. Yeah, it was about 16% increase as far as, you know, what everybody put down as far as what they thought they wanted, needed, that type of thing. I met with Nancy, some department heads and other folks in the city limits, and went through, and I just figured I'd take a swing at this. You have the in your packet, and there was another updated one put in this afternoon. The increase is the same, we just had to move some numbers around, because we did get our health insurance number back. Our health insurance is gonna increase 30% this year. So the original budget from August had a 20% increase. So because of that extra 10% of the health insurance, that $20-some thousand more that would be, we eliminated that from somewhere else in the budget. Just keep it at 6.97% increase as far as the proposal. So I'll go through some of the things that I asked Nancy to change, just based on my conversations with department heads and different people. I'll explain, or my rationale, questions, we can look at things, we can still change things. Whatever we approve tonight is the preliminary budget. That does not necessarily mean that that's exactly what it's gonna be in December. But whatever we approve tonight, so say it's gonna be a 6.97% increase over last year, we can't go over that at the December meeting. We can go lower than that, we can move things around so it's the same thing as far as dollars in different places, but that dollar amount will have to be, that's our cap. We can't go over that. So, just to start to, our contractual obligations are somewhere over 5%. If you look at the overall levy as far as the steps and lanes, what do you call them? So, yeah, still talking about the school. Grades and steps. The school steps and lanes, so here we're grades and steps. So the grades and steps, cost of living, the health insurance, all that, we're at over 5% increase to our levy just with that stuff. So we have to, so there's another couple percent in here for projects or other ads. So changes from the budget from the first one that you had, under mayor and council, the safe routes to school. Originally that was, saving for that year 1 of 2. 45,000, we changed that to year 1 of 4 to 22.5 to do it over a 4-year period, since the Safe Routes to School program won't be started in the next 3 to 4 years anyway. We'd stretch it out over the period of time we would have, so that when it was here, we'd have the money. We don't need to save as much for it each year. So that was a $22,500 difference. Legal, we've come in under that the last 2 years, so I asked her to take $15,000 off the budget there. Police department, a couple things. I talked to the police chief. We had a good long conversation about many different things in the department and the things they've had to deal with over the last couple of years. I asked him about the squad car, just looking at the capital portion of it. Pretty much with the number of squad cars we have, pretty much every year there's a squad that needs to be replaced every year to keep them in good working condition and new enough to be able to service what they're supposed to do. So I asked him, Dodge County, you guys aren't aware of it, is going to a leasing program through Enterprise for all of their fleet vehicles, including the sheriff's department, the city or the county, maintenance staff. So I asked them, is there a way that we could go 1 year without that squad car to investigate a leasing program, to see if that would make sense? And my thought on that is, even if we just looked at the police squads, we're gonna be budgeting $42,000 a year for a capital expenditure and an index there for inflation going forward. If we can get a lease payment for all 6 or 7 or 8 of our squad cars for less than $42,000 a year, that's a positive for us. So he said, yep, we could go a year, so we took $42,000 off the capital there. We'll investigate into the leasing program to see if we can make that work for us. I left in there the new full-time police officer. After our conversations, that will decrease the part-time by 30,000, so it's not a complete add. But looking at the number of calls, the population, and the number of officers we've had static now since 2004 and 2008, I do think it justifies with what they're doing on a daily basis. If you look at their calls, I do think it warrants having that full-time officer. He's assured me that our part-time labor is gonna go down. The part-time labor, I know Nancy and I, we debated this, we talked about this for a while. And the challenge has been is that, from the chief's point of view, he was gonna be at that last meeting, but there was a house fire that night, so he didn't make it, but there is if you wanna look at his PowerPoint or whatever he's got. That the full-time officer will alleviate having some of the part-time help that's there, just with the way the schedule works. So we did go over the schedule. Adding the full-time officer still does not get us to having 2 officers on at all times. That's his desire to have
Well,
that.
that's what I thought the intent of it was, the way I...
He's getting closer, but he can't quite get there. I mean, could he get there if we left all the part-time in there too? We just can't afford that right now. So it's a step, I think, in the direction. We just keep evaluating the year. So that, again, these are my suggestions to the budget when we got the first ones. This is my chopping up of the budget. So, I'm recommending to leave that in there. We removed some other stuff, that was already in there, the vests and the laptops are added, so. So I'll go through all this list, and if anybody has questions or other things, we can go over that. Fire, we lowered the capital by quite a bit. We left in the $8,333 for the tanker truck that we're currently saving for, that the townships are paying 75% for, and the city's paying 25% for. We're in year 3 of 5, that's $8,333 for the city's obligation. We'll have 2 more years to go, 2020 and 21. The original budget had in there to start saving for to replace the 1991 tanker truck. I talked to the fire chief, and he doesn't think there's any need to save for the 91 tanker truck until we purchase the older tanker truck, and we may be able to wait a while on that as well. So that was $60,000, so we eliminated that. We also lowered some of the capital for the other things that were there. The fire department pay, the revenue side of it had been $50,000 for several years. They requested it to go to $60,000. I requested it to go back to $50,000, so we keep budgeting the same amount we have over the past few years, so that was recommended. Department conferences were asked to be $10,000 instead of $6,000. I asked them to take $4,000 back off that and leave it at $6,000. Uniforms, there was $8,350 for uniforms, and it listed Class A uniforms. I asked that $5,000 come off that, and we have $3,000 for uniforms that are not Class A uniforms. So my message or my encouragement was that if the department wants to buy Class A uniforms, that they fundraise for those on their own, and that we wouldn't levy for Class A uniforms. So I asked that the budget be lowered back down to $3,000 for general uniforms. That's what I asked. So that's what's in the budget. Streets and storm. We cut some of the capital there. We had some stuff in there for a loader, different things. We're still saving for those, but just not as much. The ADA compliance for the sidewalks, I believe, was already paid for in the 2018 budget, so I took that out. We didn't need it in 19 as well. Park area insurance. I noticed that, as Nancy, there was some things we had budgeted X amount of dollars for insurance over the years. Over the last 3 budget cycles, we've been coming consistently lower than that by $6,000 to $7,000. So I asked to take $5,000 off that for the budget. And then EDA, we lowered the dues back down to what they currently were, which took $2,650 off, and the EDA at the meeting in August had decided that we didn't wanna spend any money on marketing, which was gonna be the branding, so I lowered that back down to $500 from $5,500, that our money, our time would be better spent on developing the incentives that we had talked about before, the transfer to liquor funds. So that took $7,650 off of that. So when it all said and done, we were proposed back in August of close to 16 or 17%. With all these changes, the health insurance being 30%, we're at 6.97% increase over last year. So that's gonna be my recommendation to the council, is that we would approve that number. I don't really wanna go over that, just personally. We're a growing community. Last year, we kinda did some things, we had some things in there that we could do. We could keep a zero to, somebody asked me the other day, is it gonna be zero again? And I said, I'm only one vote, but probably not. Absolutely, just, it's not going to be. And we're a growing community, we enjoy a lot of services, and I do think that people live here because we do have those services. And this year, our big ad, even though we're decreasing some other things, is that full-time police officer. And I really do believe that people choose here because it's a safe place to live. And over years, we need to keep up with that. Can we add a new police officer every year? Absolutely not. But I think every 10 years, I think if our population continues to increase, that's what we owe the citizens. So that's my rationale and reasoning behind that. So, anything anybody else has or questions about those recommendations? Nope. Doug, anything?
No, thought we'd come a long way with things,
And of course, with any budget, everybody's not happy. So, we didn't get elected to please everybody all the time, I suppose. Most of the people, most of the time, I hope, but Lonnie, anything?
Nope, I'm good.
What?
Good so far.
Yeah?
Just the one on insurance going up 30%,
30% increase in health insurance, and
how much is that? Is that the city taking on that whole 30%? How much are we?
no, it's by the contract, so whatever percentage we pay, the employee pays a certain percentage, we pay a certain percentage, so the increases reflect each person takes on their share, if I said that right.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yep. And Linda has researched it exhaustively, we've checked with agents and everything else, and that's just with every company that offers insurance in the state of Minnesota for a small group like the city, that's it.
And we're still looking.
It's still looking.
So it's possible
Right.
it could go less, but, because I am still looking at different.
There is a third insurance company that will be releasing their rates October 1st for Southeast Minnesota. That's not out yet. I just found that out today.
There's a couple that don't have their 2019 rates out
But
yet.
October 1st, there is a third coming in, another provider coming. We just found that out at work. And their goal was to bring it down to more compatible to last year's rates for what people were paying. Because we just found out ours is going up between 10 and 15%. But this company is coming in.
You have to let me know what that company is.
Yeah.
So, is it a secret, or?
They didn't tell me which one it is. They said the rates will be out October 1st. So I'm just working with them at work on it, so. I will, because if it's any way we can help,
Mm-hmm.
that's what I'm looking at.
Mhm.
That's why I was asking.
Anything else?
That was it.
Okay,
Good.
any more comments on the budget? Okay. I will entertain a motion to approve the preliminary 2018 tax levy collectible in 2019. Is set there in that $3,141,316. That is the number that represents our 6.97% increase, correct?
Yes, so if you could make a motion to approve budget and then a motion to approve the resolution approving that levy.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the preliminary budget.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Thanks, Lonnie. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. I'll entertain a motion to approve the resolution approving preliminary 2018 tax levy collectible in 2019.
I'll make that motion.
Lonnie, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Resolution passed unanimously. Thank you. And thanks for everybody for taking a look at that, and, thanks to Nancy and Linda for the health insurance stuff, that's kind of their thing, but Nancy puts a lot of time in meeting with the stuff, and Teresa, so thank you for doing that. And thanks to Nancy for putting up all my crazy questions about every line of the budget, so.
You don't have all the crazy questions.
Okay, old business F number 4, Zumbro Water Trail Corridor. This was some correspondence from Orinoco. It looks like they got our $154, and they're just waiting to get going on that.
Yeah, so the Watershed Partnership staff person who was identified to write the application is evidently no longer on their staff there. So this is letting us know until their board meets, we won't know which staff person is assigned to this and whether or not our $154 still covers the cost of the application. So we'll be waiting for more information after the Zumbro Watershed Partnership Board meets.
Okay, thank you. F number 5, ordinance regarding utility infrastructure. This is from our last meeting. We had Mr. Kleberger in, and he had a question. He was raising the question about the, forgive me if I don't use the right terminology, but the water shut off that goes to his house from the main broke when someone closed it to help them because their basement was, they had a leak in their basement. And so they were asking that the city pay for that. And so I just wanted to put together some stuff, so I'll let everybody kick this around. You know, so it's very clear in our ordinance, and I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't just us and that we're not like everybody else. We looked at Dodge Center, Stewartville, Byron, anybody who has this, it from the main to the house is the property owner's responsibility. So, I don't know if anybody else has any ideas or what you're thinking. I mean, I know, Corey, you've talked to Corey. It just looks to me like it's one of those unfortunate situations that just happen. I mean, you guys are in the construction trade and digging this stuff, I think these things break.
Yes,
I mean,
they do. And there's no way around it. It just happens. The worst problem is Charlie was providing a service, trying to help the homeowner shut it off so he could do his work in the house. And it happened to break because they were trying to go back and forth to break it loose. It broke. If he would have hired somebody to have done it, they would have done the same thing. It's not like something that they deliberately went out there and broke it. I don't know if we need to stop our guys from even attempting to shut off the water when they're asked, so we don't get in those situations, because it is the homeowner's property.
Well, that's kind of when I talked to Corey on the phone about that, and I think maybe someone else, you know, it's hardware hank, you have to have a tool on hand, to put on a wrench to shut your water off. But then, you know, in the conversation with Corey is that he also said that, you know, Charlie had said, well, we'll get it fixed, whatever else, we broke it, whatever. You know, even our own staff is kind of not quite sure what we are responsible for, what whoever else is responsible for. And one of the things we kind of talked about was that maybe if Corey knew that it was his responsibility, he may have taken a different avenue of getting it fixed himself versus, I forget what the bill was, $3,000.
Yep.
I mean, he might have had a chance to be able to do it himself. You know, there's people out there that, I mean, Lonnie, if it broke in your front yard, you know the way to do it, you would probably grab a backhoe and dig it.
Too old for that crap.
Well, but you know what I mean, Corey's not.
It's sure nice to be able to call the city and get it shut off, though.
Yes.
I had to use it a month or two
Yeah.
ago. I had a valve in the house, 2 years old, just split in the night, you know, so I found a wrench, 2 foot too short, mine was deeper than heck, so they had to come with a 10-footer, they got right there, and we got it shut off, you know, so it's sure nice to be able to call somebody, get a wrench, you know.
Which I don't have a problem with, but I think the city staff or whatever might need to have something that they, like keeps your rights read to you. You know, say, this is your valve, we can shut it off for you, but if it does break, it's
We're
your
not
responsibility. Yeah,
responsible.
we're not responsible, and have them sign it, I mean, that's, cause we're at that point right now, and like I said, Charlie even thought, well, we'll take care, we'll turn in insurance, we'll get it fixed, Corey's thinking that, next thing you know, you gotta get somebody to fix it, it's got a $3,000 bill.
But if you hire a plumber to come out and shut it off, he's not gonna tell you that if it breaks, it's your responsibility. He's just gonna try to shut it off, and if it breaks, he's gonna say it broke.
Some plumbers don't even have a curb box wrench.
Right.
Right, but, you know, you know what I mean, I'm just.
Well, I mean, no contractor's gonna, if I get hired to go out and fix somebody's light fixture, try to take it apart, light fixture breaks, because it's just old defective, I'm not gonna be responsible for that. You know, it's no different than a plumber coming out and turning the valve, he's not responsible because it's aged and it broke, but what I'm just getting at is something that due diligence on the city staff, or else us, to have a little formality of stating whose it is, what happens.
Well, there was a little bad information on it too by the contractor that was there that told them, these things never break. You know,
Yeah, they do.
That isn't true, you know, but.
No, it's not, yeah, it wasn't fair to say that, so. So like I said, the biggest thing is that if Corey knew that it was his own issue, that he may have chose a different avenue if he would have known it cost him $3,000 to fix that, you know? So, I feel the city might be a little in it with them, I don't know.
I don't know if it's anything the city can just go pay for, is what we're gonna say, but I would
We're gonna
like
set
to
the
offer a
precedent.
solution though to help. I mean, 'cause I get it too, I mean, usually you get the $3,000 bill that just shows up, you can't pay that, I mean, we do have a mechanism with petition and waiver where we could
Pay it
help,
and then.
pay it and then help
assess it.
and assess it over, and its property taxes over a number of years so we can do it over time.
Can I do that interest-free?
No,
Not,
or
I think we
not
gotta waive
based
a
on
waiver
our
of interest.
policy, no,
Maybe
our
like one
assessment
over
policy.
time or something like that.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
To me, it'd be something that, to help them out. I just don't know if we wanna go down that dangerous slope of,
Paying for it.
I just don't know if we can.
And we're admitting fault.
Well, even then, it's just a precedent that we're gonna set that,
Mhm.
you know.
We don't wanna
Fix
go.
one, now you're gonna fix them all.
And that's why I
Right,
asked
then who
Teresa
is
to get the
responsible?
ordinances from all the other communities, and I went online and looked at the other communities, and that's just the way it is. I mean, it's everywhere, it's not just here. I mean, if it was just us, then I think that's something we need to address, but it's not, it's everybody. So I would entertain that, I don't know if we need a motion to approve that, or you ask him if he's interested in doing that, maybe he doesn't want to, but.
Reach out to Corey and see if he would be.
I'll get in touch with Corey.
Okay.
I just emailed him this morning and
Okay.
talked a little bit, so I'll get
Okay.
back to Corey on that.
Yep, we
Do
can
you
provide
have,
it with the
is there a
paperwork.
time frame for this? Is it 1 year, 5 year, 10 year? I mean, is there a limit on?
Petition waivers
Set?
usually 15, isn't it? I mean, up to.
We can go up to 15 years.
I
I mean, we can do anything in
think we can
between.
do it by, yeah.
And we can
I
just-
mean, we
if
have
he's
some
interested in
folks-
that, we
right,
can ask him up
exactly,
for help.
right. He doesn't have to spread it out as far perhaps as somebody who had a $5,000 bill or a $10,000 bill. We can totally work with them on that.
Okay. All right, everybody good with that?
Yep.
Okay. I'll reach out to Corey and talk to him. New business, the MMUA 2018-19 Safety Management Program contract. That is in your packet. This is for the job training and safety. This is through the Minnesota Municipal Utilities Association, and something that looks like we've done every year forever and ever and ever.
Right, it really does, offer us a level of protection when it comes to OSHA and OSHA training requirements. Actually, Mark was here for an OSHA inspection of street sweepers, I believe, this past week. So it's helpful to have him here and show OSHA that we are active with MMUA, and we do keep our training up to date, and we keep all of our forms up to date. They did come to City Hall to request data, so we were able to help them with that as well.
All right, so that's your packet. I'll entertain a motion to approve the contract with MMUA for the 2018-19 Safety Management Program.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Doug. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Bonnie, all in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Both same sign. Motion carries unanimously, Linda. G2 tax forfeited property.
So this is a piece of property that, includes Maston Creek, it's just north of the bridge. And Maston Creek, the property is on both sides of Maston Creek. So when it comes to, would this be a property that the city would be interested in acquiring, it does fit with our idea of trail access or a corridor of some kind along Maston Creek. DNR first needs to release this property for sale, so we will get another notice from the county, before we have to make a determination that it is a property that the city would want to acquire, but I wanted to make you aware of it so you could be thinking of it now, and then when it does come up, it won't be our first conversation.
No action required.
No action required.
Okay, thank you.
Is this near where you got the access when you
It
bought
would
all
be
that?
just south of the railroad track, up by the other access, yes. Yep.
Okay. New business, G number 3, single audit wastewater treatment facility expansion.
Yes. This is a requirement of for our funding for the wastewater treatment plant was to do the single audit. Any action?
Yeah, well, only because, when our auditors perform an audit, we approve the one for the regular operation. And since they kind of did the same thing, but particularly for this project, because federal funds were involved, I guess I'd like to ask that the council approve this audit as well, just to be consistent with the actions of our auditors.
Were there any questions on the audit?
Isn't it?
Thanks. I should have hands who read every word. I did. It was boring like most audits, so it looked like we
So you enjoyed it?
are good. So we're in good standing. It was all good. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the single audit for the wastewater treatment facility expansion.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Dan. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Doug. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries unanimously, Linda. Mayor's report. One thing, you know, a lot of things go on in our town throughout the year, and one of them just took place this last weekend with the Big Iron Classic. It's pretty amazing when you see everything that comes to town. We got a report here from our liquor store manager, which this past weekend happens to be the single largest weekend of the year for the liquor store in Casson, but they sold almost 2 tons of ice, 3,595 pounds of ice. There's folks that come in that have been coming every year that they've been here, and they stop in with their rigs to the liquor store to say hi, because they have fun there. I mean, the staff is fun, Kathy has fun with them, and she has people that call her ahead of time, make sure that she's gonna be there. They steal her banner and bring it back on Sunday, because it's a joke every year. But you know, just the total number of beer units as far as cases of beer was 1,456 cases of beer were sold over the weekend. So it's just a great weekend for liquor store, and sales this year were up 27% from the same Saturday last year. So,
Less trucks.
what's that?
Less trucks here too.
Yeah, so anyway, just got that update that she was extremely busy over the weekend, so, which is a good thing. So, and it seems like a good thing, because there's a lot of as I've talked to some of the guys who come year after year, they really enjoy coming to Casson, so it just reflects good on the community too, so.
What percentage of that was hauled on golf carts?
I don't know. I would say a fair amount.
Yeah, it
There
was
was,
like a
percentage, yes.
There was over 270 golf carts there,
Yeah,
so they're looking at changing their policy next year. Golf carts.
yeah, at the fairground.
At the fairgrounds because of the issues they had there.
Okay, so we'll move on to the administrator's report. Electric utility updates.
So we still have not received the signed agreement from Xcel Energy to transfer back our service by exception area. We're waiting for that filing to be ready to go to MPUC. That has not happened. But along those lines, the folks at MNUA have also put together a meeting of cities that are likely to expand in the near future and want to be able to purchase territory and serve those areas that get annexed into the city as well. So we have a meeting coming up to talk about working with Excel on the purchase of future territory. That will be on September 18th. Todd and I will go up there and meet with over a dozen other cities, I think, were listed on the letter. So that is also a service that we receive through MMUA.
Number 2.
2, assessment deferrals. So we do have folks in the 2017 street assessment project who have requested deferrals. Some of those deferrals are from folks who qualify because of their age, and some of them are folks who have requested to be included because of financial constraints pretty much beyond their control. So I'm just asking you this year to approve renewing those assessment deferrals.
Okay, this is annual.
Annual, they apply
exercise that we'll go
annually,
through. Yep.
correct.
Okay. So any questions for Teresa on that? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the assessment deferrals for the next year.
Are they they're already existing ones?
They were folks who did get their deferrals in last year for approval, and then this year we sent them out the forms so that they could reapply for this year. Correct.
So I'll entertain a motion to approve the assessment deferrals for 2019.
I'll make that motion.
Sonny, do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Doug. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously, Linda. Engineers report.
All right, well, thank you, Mayor and Council. One item tonight on the agenda, 16th Street, going west of Highway 57 over to what we typically call the dump road. And then also the roundabout discussion at the intersection. Wanted to have a quick discussion tonight with the council. No actions requested tonight, just looking for a discussion and more of a direction on how do we move this project forward. So before we jump into kind of what we're proposing from a staff level, I'll do some quick background on what we've kind of accomplished or done up to this point. We've met with two developers in that area that basically are being hindered or they're not allowed to develop at this point because there's not real good access over there. And we want to run this 16th Street road through that area to provide them access. So that development has been discussed at a staff level. We talked to the county about securing some right-of-way for the roadway. They've been receptive of that. We included a trail portion of this roadway into our Safe Routes to School grant, which we are funded and we're going to be building in 2022, I believe it is. So that's moving forward. We've done some layout and budgeting for the project, looking at some stuff preliminarily. That's why I'm looking at having this discussion tonight on moving things forward. So what's the next step? From an engineering standpoint, we kind of getting our arms around it, I'll call it, if you will. We're looking for how do we pull together funding for this project. And I got two things I kind of want to talk about. The first one, myself, Teresa, Stephanie from CETA talked about something that's called deed funding through the state deed. They have a 50-50 matching infrastructure grant. We've been successful in other communities to secure funding, again, 50-50 for the utility, sewer and water extensions that are part of this project. That's something that CETA is looking at assisting the city in with their time through their EDA contract to write that grant with our assistance, obviously. So that's something that we wanted to bring through, and I'll kind of circle back to that. Ultimately, again, we've been pretty successful in securing some funds for other communities, so we think it's an attractive program the city should consider. The second one is MnDOT. This obviously abuts a trunk highway. It's a pretty significant roadway, so MnDOT's going to be a partner in this project if anything moves forward. So I did meet with them a couple weeks ago and basically sat down with them and said, hey, we're looking at making some improvements 57, we're looking at 16th Street. And they said, well, how serious is the city? And I said, I think they're pretty serious. They want to move something forward, so what's the next step? And I can bring that back to the council. And they basically, like us, they have budgets too, and they said, well, we don't have anything planned here. What are you guys proposing? You guys are going to have to lead this. You're going to have to kind of push this through to MnDOT. And MnDOT has many different funding programs that we could potentially get funded. But they basically kind of put it back in our court and said, we don't see us doing anything in our next 8 to 10 years that they've already planned out, unless we kind of push it and take the next step. So what is that next step? That's what I'll oversimplify and call them intersection analysis to basically look and see if we build 16th Street, we probably need to do something with that intersection. I know we've talked about roundabout, that was in an old analysis, the recommended option. But basically we would look at that intersection again and look at a roundabout, stoplights, stop conditions on 16th Street to leave 57 free flowing. Doubt that's what will end up being the recommended intersection there, but that would be one of the possibilities in that report. So the MnDOT basically told us that's the next step, and I'm here tonight to talk about that. That's a $20,000 to $25,000 exercise from our engineering standpoint to look at that. And then with that will come recommendations that we can use to go back to MnDOT with funding opportunities when we build this road to the west. And then also improvements to the east, if we get some funding there too, because that will change kind of the traffic characteristics, so we take that into consideration. So what I'll kind of leave with is the big picture. I know it's a tough kind of pill to swallow, is spending a fair amount of funding from the city side to not have a true end goal in mind. The end goal of Bagley is we're going to try to secure MnDOT funding to assist this, but we don't have necessarily an end game from MnDOT. I can't get a straight answer out of MnDOT, and never will, on what their funding would be. But there's different potentials in there to grab onto something, and MnDOT's planned out for many years. So I'll kind of tell it this way: if anything's going to happen out there, I think it's going to be city-led through what we're proposing through a process. Again, doing the intersection report and bringing it to MnDOT. So that's kind of the second option that's going to help fund the whole area over there. The third one is our MSAS money. That's money we get every year, $250,000, $260,000. We have about $1 million in the bank just kind of sitting there waiting to be spent. That could be used to continue building to the west or be used on that roundabout once we get some other funding secured. So that's an option. And then the other one is through development agreements. I mentioned the two developers that were looking at developing that area. We could have something similar to some other roadway projects that we did. It's going to benefit other properties, so we want to sit down with them and work out through development agreements. So that's kind of what I have in a nutshell. The four things: again, the deed funding that we'd ultimately be looking for some direction of the council on putting something together, and then proceeding with the engineering agreement to do the intersection analysis report to help spur things on MnDOT and continue pushing MnDOT for that funding. And then the other three we don't really need any direction on because we're not quite there yet. But that's kind of what I've kind of came up with and wanted to discuss that with the council to get some feel and direction from the council.
Brandon, does the 2021 timeline still come into play in any way?
Yeah, I mean, our project is kind of locked in, if you will, with MnDOT in our 2021. That's from the north end of the fairgrounds down to County Road 34. That was talked about as part of our project, and one of the things we had talked about was, well, I'd be kind of ashamed to build to the fairgrounds and then a couple of years later come and build 16th Street and filling that gap. I think that'd be a long shot if it actually happened through our 2021 project, but it was discussed. But I don't want to give off any inklings that I feel that could happen. There is sometimes pots of money that MnDOT comes into, and we're not just going to be handed it without having this pre-engineering work, I'll call it, done.
Okay. Any questions for Brandon? Dan?
Other than where would we come up with the 20,000? That's not his.
Have you talked with the two developers at all? I mean, if they have they got something to throw into the pot towards 25,000, I mean, it's gonna benefit them also.
No, not specifically. We met with them and they were just curious what was happening and when things were gonna be built and when they could be served with water and sewer. And there's a local business over there that's looking for sewer and water also. My thought there with that is that we need to get kind of our things in order and then approach them about contributing for the construction of the project would be my thought. Obviously we can't do that. They're going to have a lot of engineering and their own cost. And then we're going to have a discussion too on what's the reasonable development agreement with those developers and our cost recovery to offset our cost that MSAS isn't going to pay for, this potential D grants going to pay for, and what potentially MnDOT's going to pay for. In the Safe Routes to School grant that we've already secured. So that's going to be a tough discussion at that point too.
So MSAS funds, can they be used for the intersection analysis, or is that only for physical construction? of the
That's only
street?
for physical construction.
And what about this deed grant? Would that be for the physical construction, or is there a grant available for the analysis?
No, that'd be for the physical construction of infrastructure,
Okay.
potentially some of the roadway, but not on the trunk highway, that'd be a local street.
Okay.
It's gonna be messy from our side to try to line up all
Yeah, I'm
these,
just
when we have
trying to-
multiple projects, but, no, good questions, but.
I think we can all agree, we know it's something we gotta look at. It's inevitable.
What kind of timeline do you need this 25,000, I mean?
For the outside chance that we could potentially have something with our 2021 project, thinking this winter would be a good time to do it. I do think we got some traffic counts that have to be done, so we'll have to consider that into this too. Not sure if we can get it done this winter, but
We
we'll
might do
figure it out.
traffic counts while school's in session.
Well, that's one of the conversations we had, so. Charlie.
Very engaged.
Yeah, we're gonna pay Jerry to jump on the traffic counter.
Should've got the truck counter.
Yeah. The big iron was in.
Are there, I mean, obviously we have fund balances for our different enterprise funds and different things. Are there any fund balances that we have?
With a lot of the things that have been going on lately, we've completed
Right.
some of those opportunities, so,
Okay.
I mean, this sounds like it might be a 2019 budget item.
Right. Okay.
Where's our liquor?
How about that, I was just gonna say, the ones who just sold all the beer.
That is one of the funds that would
One
be
of the funds.
available.
All right, so this isn't any work that you would do till this winter anyway, so you don't need an answer for us tonight. We can chew on this,
Yep.
come up with some ideas
For
for
sure.
the next meeting.
Well, yeah, I mean, I
And
don't
then-
wanna make a decision tonight, but I mean,
No.
it's something,
I think it's something we don't wanna fall asleep with either.
I think we've started the ball rolling. We
Yeah.
acquired the property on the corner of
Yeah.
57 and 60 for this purpose. And now if MnDOT's willing to at least entertain it, where before it was, hey, 8 to 10 years out, we aren't even thinking about it. Now they know we're serious. If we can get it into that 2021 project, when the road's already tore up anyway.
How big is that, if we could extend that out to the roundabout, have that in?
So I'll let everybody just put your thoughts together for the next meeting to see what we can come up with, and I'll try to get with Nancy sometime before the next meeting and see if we can get a microscope out. She
Can I
looks
ask-
at me funny again.
Can I ask one question? Brandon, if we spend this 25,000 on this analysis, it doesn't go for the 21 project, it's kicked out 5 years, are we gonna have to spend another 25,000 to reanalyze it?
Probably not, because if you get into MnDOT funding, it may or may not have a longer lead time.
Mhm.
So let's just say even if we're selecting 21, we have a hard deadline where MnDOT brings their money to the table, we'll already know the scope of the project at that time. And this is why I know it's kind of a tough pill to swallow here, because we do all this work, spend the money, and we don't get funded for it, because I can't guarantee we can.
Right, yep.
So if we're out 5, 10 years and not get funded, then I think it would have to be redone. And I told MnDOT the same thing. I said, all right, MnDOT, I get the city on board, they wanna push this, they make the next step, they make the investment. Where's the light at the end of the tunnel? Where's the kettle that we can, or the pot of gold we're gonna dive
Right.
into? And they can't give me an answer, so
they won't either.
we try.
All right, well, thank you for that update.
Yeah.
It's encouraging, at least they're willing to listen. So
And
if
I'll-
we can
and
put
I'll-
our heads together and figure out something at the next meeting, just to see where we can find the money for the site.
Sure, and I'll go back to maybe the deed grant too. Again, I think it's a great grant, that we could almost likely do separate of the roundabout too, so I think that's something that, if you're comfortable giving Teresa some direction on having CETA put that application together and bring that application back to the council.
Absolutely, any grants we can apply for,
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah, it is a 50-50 grant, so we have to be prepared to
Sure.
bring our money to the table too, so.
Okay. Thank you very much. Anything else?
No, that was it.
Okay. Personnel, K1, those are in your, packet as well. We have 2 fire department, resignations. Get that. Spencer Clem. And Rob Burrish, I was getting to the bottom there. They're both moving outside of the area to be on the fire department, so they'll both be living outside of, where the response time can get to the fire all the time. So I will entertain a motion to accept the resignations of Rob and Spencer.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Doug.
I'll second that.
Dan, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All same sign. Motion carries unanimously, Linda. L1, attorney report, we're going into closed session, we're gonna get updates on the litigation strategy regarding, the special assessment strategy, and, update on the Wilker, court date that was last Thursday. Lawsuit update. So we're gonna go ahead and close the meeting, we'll reopen the meeting after we're done with the closed session. If you decide to leave, thank you very much for coming, but we'll have to vacate the room for 3 minutes. Oh, yeah.
So we're going into closed session for attorneys, and basically, all that you'll hear is what was discussed. You think online, video of this meeting.